Hey rockers, I'm Keytalk and welcome to the Socks Box. So for my usual viewers, I know this is a very strange aesthetic going on. And here's the thing, I want this for this particular video because one thing about me, I love listening to scary stories and watching scary movies in the dark. And I've always wanted to have an experience where I share scary stories with someone in the dark. And while I don't have people around me to do this in person, I do have you guys, so that's what this is. Just for the record, this whole aesthetic, just my editing software. So I'm doing my part to make this as spooky as possible for you guys, so you need to play your bit and watch this in the dark. So today I'm doing a little story time. This is the story of the time that I was being haunted. And I do not mean that the place I was living in was haunted. I mean something was haunting me. Not possessing me, haunting me. So yeah, get comfortable or uncomfortable if that's how you feel about these kind of things, and let's rock it. So this story takes place in 2015. Now I've mentioned before that 2015 was a sucky year for me. I was having a hard time with my parents, I was in a horribly toxic relationship, and I was finding out that everyone who was claiming to be my friend just really didn't care about me at all. Now all of this was amplified because at the time I was going through my worst phase of depression with bipolar in my life, and I wasn't even diagnosed at the time, so I just didn't know what was wrong with me. Just for the record, the depression actually started before all of the social situations started hitting me really hard. And because I was dealing with all of this, it was really affecting my studies, which was just more things to stress about. So great time 2015. So between late March and early April, I had my third year zoology practicals. And during this time, all of these problems that I was having hit me full force with such an impact that I just had no idea what to do with myself. I was completely breaking down and hiding from everyone because every time I tried to talk about this, I was kind of attacked. That's how it felt. Like no one wanted to listen to my problems, no one wanted to care about my problems, and I felt bad for having them because it was essentially my job to be everyone else's emotional dump site. So when the practicals were over, that was when I stopped talking to people completely about pretty much anything, and when I did slip up and speak, even if it was something small, like something I saw on social media, I would mentally yell at myself for trying to include someone else in my life. I just didn't want to have anything to do with anyone around me. So yeah, I was in a very low and dark place, and this is where the paranormal stuff kicks in. So this is my dream journal, and on May 17th, I had a weird experience after I woke up. And luckily for me, I thought to write it down in this. So I start off this entry by saying that in this particular dream, I brought my book into the dream, which is probably why I thought to write what happened after the dream ended. But anyways, I'm not going to go too much into the dream, but at the back, after I wrote what my dream was about, I made like a little asterisk and said, it sounded like a horrible storm outside, heard 3 distinct, evenly spaced knocks, approximate time 3:49 a.m. So anyone who knows a little bit about the paranormal has probably heard of witching hour, which falls generally between 3:15 and 4:15. So these knocks happened during that time. And when I heard it, it sounded like it was coming from the window, but also it sounded like a horrible storm. So anyways, I didn't think too much about it until a few days later, it happened again. It sounded like a horrible storm outside, and again I heard knocks. Evenly spaced, very distinct, and just 3. Except they weren't coming from my window, it sounded more like they were coming from my roof. And that is when I realized that maybe there's something going on here that I need to pay more attention to, because guess what the time was? 3:15. So after that, I was on high alert listening for the sound. Now I don't remember when the third one happened, and I don't remember the time of it because I was seriously just freaking out. Again, it sounded like a horrible storm outside, and I had a little camcorder that I used to use to make videos, and I recorded this noise in my room, left my room, and is there a noise outside of my room? Not at all. Listen to the recording back, you can hear the noise in my room, but you can't hear it outside of my room, and I wish I had saved this clip because it was freaky. As for the knocking, it was again on my roof, but it sounded a little closer to the foot of my bed. So, you know, obviously I was a little creeped out, and that's why I got out of bed and turned the camera on first to just make sure that I was not going crazy. So this kind of went on for a while. It was about 3 times a week that I heard the knocking. It was always on my roof. But then one night, things in my closet started falling, and I heard the knocks coming from my closet doors, and that was just kind of the limit for me. I'm like, nope, I'm not dealing with this. Now, after the things were falling in my closet, I did actually tell my mom about it, because she does believe in these things as well, because we've had these experiences a lot. Like, paranormal experiences are pretty normal on my mother's side of the family. So obviously she believed me about this, and I don't know what the English word for this is called, but it's kind of like sage in a room where you light this thing. It's like charcoal. We call it Lavan. So she brought it to my room. She smoked up my room and left it. Now, this smoke is pretty thick and it really gets to me, so I left my room as well while the smoke was in my room. And when I came back like an hour later, now like I said, I was studying during this time, and I was very organized with my studying, so all the books that I needed, I had on my table. Now when I come back into my room, the book that I needed for that particular day of studying was gone. Now, I trashed my room looking for this book, even though I was 100% sure that I left it on the table for me to use as soon as I could go back into my room, but this book was completely missing. So yeah, obviously I was freaking out. I left my room and didn't really want to come back, but when I eventually did in the evening, what do you know? The book that was missing, that I trashed my room to find, is right there on my table. Yeah, I took that as a message as, do not pull an Alice in Wonderland on me and smoke the monster out, because it just got mad with that. Now, the book wasn't the only thing that went missing. At one stage, it took everything purple from my room. Do not ask me why, but the color purple is associated with like psychic things, so I thought maybe that might be a connection, but a whole lot of purple things went missing from my room, and I actually asked very nicely for this thing to return one of my toy dinosaurs, because I had an emotional attachment to it. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to ask, but at the end of that day, my purple dinosaur was back in my room, and I really didn't know what to make of that. Now, if you think that is creepy, this one is going to freak you out even more. Because I was so freaked out with all of the knocking and stuff going on, I used to wear a little pouch with crystals in it all the time. And the one morning I woke up, looked at my pouch, and the crystals are gone. Freak out, get out of bed, and realize that the crystals are scattered around on my floor, and the purple amethyst is missing. It was actually a few of them that were missing, but I did eventually find them in odd places in my room. But that amethyst crystal was gone. Do you know when I found it? 2 months ago. This is something that happened in 2015, and this thing only magically reappeared in my room this year. Now, as freaky as that was, it did tell me one thing. This thing is not actually going to hurt me, because, I mean, if it wanted to, it could. So with my new knowledge of whatever this thing is, it's not actually going to hurt me, I stopped being so paranoid about the knocking, until one night when I was particularly grumpy and this knocking started at around 3, and I opened my eyes and I'm like, shut up. Like, I was just done with it. And funny enough, after that, the knocking stopped. Not even joking, like I just had to yell at it to stop knocking, and it stopped. But if you're thinking that is where the story ends, oh no. It still continues. So my social situation was not getting any better. My depression was not getting any better. And in late August and early September, I had my 3rd-year microbiology practicals. And again, everything was just hitting me all at once, and I snapped again. Anyways, we get to the end of the year, and I find out that, as I predicted, I did not do so well in my studies, and I actually burst into tears over this. Now, fortunately, I did pass my 2 practicals, which meant that I could still be an active student, but the rest of the stuff, it was just really, really bad. And 2 days, I think it was 2 days, 1 or 2 days after I found out how badly I did, I had to leave the house for a week. So after my microbiology practical, that was when I started really staying in my room all the time, because there was a lower chance of anyone kind of attacking me or me feeling like I was attacked by people. So the idea of leaving the house for a week and not being able to have a safe space, even if it was me hiding in a corner, the idea of not having that to rely on freaked me out a lot. Anyways, we went and things were fine until the second last night. Now on this night, there was a situation going down where I just felt very, very unsafe, and because I couldn't be alone, I didn't feel like I could just, curl into a ball and cry endlessly, so everything was just being bottled up, and I was just waiting for these 2 days to pass so I could come back and cry under my table. So when we got back after this week away, I really wanted to be alone, so anyways, I'm in my room, I'm trying to play keyboard to relax, and I was very nervous about leaving my room and my safe spot, and as I'm playing, I noticed that 4 of the keys on my keyboard are broken. They weren't broken when I left. Everything just kind of bubbled up, and I don't remember the exact details of this, but next thing I know, I'm standing in front of my mother, sobbing and unable to explain what is going on. Now, luckily for me, the last night that we were away, we were staying with one of my uncles and aunts, and they actually came back with us. And my aunt did this ritual where you burn chilies and hair and straw and stuff to kind of cast away the evil eye. And she did that for me. And after that, I kid you not, I was absolutely fine. I felt light. It was the weirdest feeling to explain, but I literally felt like something had been taken out of me. Now, if you think that is the happy ending to the story, yes, it is. But there's one more detail about this story that I didn't realize fit into it until 2 years later. And this is the creepy part of the story. Now, like I said, the last night that we were away, we spent it with my aunt and uncle. Now, their one daughter lives with them, and she has a 2-year-old daughter who I was playing with, because anywhere I go, if there are pets or kids, that is where I am. Because I'm basically a full-grown kid. So I'm making baby talk with my 2-year-old niece and playing with lip ice and stuff, and then she starts telling me about this other girl. And she's 2, so I imagine it's her imaginary friend, and she said she doesn't like the other girl and this and that, but she's talking very calmly about us. So I'm playing with my niece, having a fun time. We go into one of the rooms and we playing peekaboo, hiding on one side of the bed and looking at each other and just saying boo. And then all of a sudden she comes crawling over to my side, and she's still looking where she was. And I asked her what happened, and she's just pointing and looking, and then both of us hear this. It's nails scratching on the carpet. And at first I thought I was imagining it, until my niece looks up at me and she's like, "What was that?" I don't think she needed to ask, that was the other girl. Anyways, we left the room for a little while, came back, and the other girl was still there. My niece was still saying, the other girl's here, but again, she was really chilled out with this other girl. And the thing with me is, I've had a lot of strange paranormal experiences with just beings being around me, and for the most part, they're pretty neutral. They chilled, they don't interact much, and aside from the scratching, I didn't think much of it. I told my aunt, she's like, "No, maybe it's just something, we'll do something in the house and whatever." But then 2 years later, it occurred to me, what if this other girl was not in their house? What if what my niece saw was the thing that was haunting me? So yeah, that is the story of Kita and the other girl. And as creepy as this whole thing was, again, this other girl didn't actually do anything to hurt me. She creeped me out a lot, but she didn't actually harm me in any way. So just as a little disclaimer, I'm not sharing the story to be this is concrete proof of the paranormal. If someone doesn't want to believe in this, there's nothing I can say to change their mind about this. And just for the record, it doesn't matter how much science you want to throw at me, you cannot disprove my experience, and trust me, this was a very real experience. So yeah, what do you guys think of this story, and what is your interpretation of the other girl? Because I have 2 possible scenarios. One is that it's just an entity that latched onto all of my negativity, and the other is that it was kind of a shadow form of myself that was manifesting and messing around with me. If you guys think it's either one of those or have your own interpretation, let me know what you think down in the comments, because, you know, there's a world of possibilities and there's really no way to tell which one is actually real. I mean, you probably could if you used a Ouija board, but I won't touch one of those if you paid me. Like, no. So yeah, that is it for this week's video, and if you watched this whole thing, thank you so much for being here and letting me share my scary story in the dark, because I've never been able to do this before, so this is pretty exciting for me. And hopefully very soon in the future I can actually sit with a group of people in person and we can all just share creepy paranormal stories together. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and if you're new and want to see more of me, be sure to hit subscribe and boop the bell to join the Socks Box and get a Socks in your video every Wednesday. If you want to know what goes on in my alternative normal life the rest of the week, you can head over to my personal channel and social medias, all of which are linked down in the description. So yeah, thanks for watching, and until next week, you just keep rocking. Bye!